distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
Let me tell you about a place that has it all for your home, bedroom, kitchen, lawn, and more. It's a home-owned and home-operated business that's been around for over 70 years, so you know they're doing something right. At Swap and Shop Center in Lawrenceburg, you'll find top name brands for every room of your house, and top brands for the outside too. Looking for appliances, televisions, couches, safes, bedding, mowers, and well, the list goes on. So make the drive today to 824 North Military Avenue in Lawrenceburg and be treated right. Got primary care? Find your way to better health with primary care by One Stop Medical. With decades of combined experience, you'll find a one-on-one relationship just like the old days, but with the convenience and technology of today. When One Stop Medical does primary care, it's the best. Call today for an appointment and find your way to healthy living. Serving Lawrenceburg, Pulaski, and Hohenwald. Phone 931-244-8220. Primary care by One Stop Medical at its best. The Summit of Lawrenceburg is the premier senior and assisted living community in the region. The Summit makes it home for you or your loved one with diverse suites that welcome and encourage community, plus gathering spaces, neighborhoods, daily activities, and a wonderful staff that supports you every day.
Hi, I'm Tara Blue. I'm the new director of the Summit, and we would like to invite you and your family to come and tour our facility. We would love to see you here.
There's no job too big or too small for Gonzalez Lawn and Landscapes. Owner Chris Gonzalez works hard to make your commercial or residential properties one of the neighbors will envy. You won't find a lower price anywhere else, and that's a guarantee. We offer mowing, landscape removal, small construction jobs, and more. Our team is licensed and insured to ensure the best work for Lawrence County and surrounding areas. Your satisfaction is our goal. We won't leave until you're happy. Call today to set up a free quote.
For the best meal from south of the border, head to Cocina Real in Puente Grande for lunch and dinner. With a wide array of mouth-watering entrees, there's something for everyone on the menu. And you can't forget the cheese dip. They'll treat you like family, and you'll never leave hungry. Make Cocina Real Mexican Restaurant and Puente Grande Mexican Restaurant your choice for authentic cuisine, located in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
And I'd like to welcome everybody into this Thursday edition of the Mark My Words College Sports Show here on the X Sports Network. I'm your host, Michael Marks, and we are going to jump right into it with a lot of news. We got some breaking news, so to speak, going on down in Baton Rouge with this LSU coaching search. It's already in full swing, you can say. The governor of Louisiana, Jeff Landry, came out last night and stated that Scott Woodward would not be hiring the next LSU football coach. There's an ongoing search for a new university president. I'm not sure how much of an impact that will have. I also don't know how much power a governor of a state has when it comes to saying who can and cannot hire a head coach. Woodward's been the AD at LSU since the spring of 2021 and has definitely been under a bit of fire lately for being the AD that signed the two coaches that got the largest payouts in college football history. Obviously, Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M, somewhere in the 70 to 75 million range. The 50 million, 55 million for Brian Kelly. And I will say, Woodward is known to be the guy that likes to make the big hire. Go and get the biggest name out there, because he's been at some premier universities. I mean, going back at his days at Washington, he made the hire to bring in Chris Peterson, the head football coach at Washington, led them to a college football playoff appearance back in 2016. And then moves on to Texas A&M, where he hires Jimbo Fisher, and at the time looked like a really good hire. Jimbo had just made Florida State look really, really good for about 5 to 6 years. and wanted to bring that same success to Texas A&M. Unfortunately, as you know, that did not happen. Brought in Buzz Williams to try to improve the basketball program, and I think he did a great job. Buzz did, but he wasn't going to be the guy that brought you a national championship. He wasn't going to be the guy that brought you, Final Fours and conference championships. He got close a couple of times, but was never able to actually get the big win. Now, since he's been at LSU, he's brought in, obviously, Brian Kelly was the first big hire. Kim Mulkey in women's basketball, that was a great hire. Jay Johnson, I mean, those two guys have won you, Mulkey and Johnson have won you 3 national championships in the last, just as many years. You had LSU baseball and women's basketball win the championship, I believe, in 2023, LSU baseball, in 2024, LSU women's basketball, and then in 2025, the baseball team back on top. And, LSU's women's basketball team looks pretty good this year as well. And, I think the problem is that Brian Kelly was compared to those two, and since he wasn't able to get that immediate success, it was going to be kind of hard. So it definitely is interesting at LSU what's going on. They have a bye week this week, so they'll kind of get a chance to figure things out. But they are in a rough spot going down the stretch. So we'll break into the games this weekend. Not a whole bunch of big matchups, which means that we're probably going to see some upsets this weekend, and I think those end up being the best weekends. Yeah, sure, you might not have Alabama versus Georgia, but hey, one of the games we'll talk about in a little bit, it could be a pretty big upset brewing. We'll start in the ACC with Duke 4-3 going on the road to face Clemson, who is 3-4. This one, the 11 a.m. game on the ACC network. Clemson 2-5 on the year, or Clemson 2.5-point favorites, at home, and over/under set at 56.5. So they like some points in this one. Duke 2-1 on the road. Clemson is 1-3 at home. Both these teams are in interesting scenarios because I think that this was probably at one of the early season, I'm not going to say favorites, but definitely was one of the games you were looking at that could have been a preview at potentially an ACC championship game. And neither one of these teams have had the luck they needed. Obviously Duke has losses to Tulane, Illinois. Has some big wins, like a 35-point win at Syracuse, a 24-point win at Cal. They need that signature win. And I'm not saying that Clemson is a signature win this year, but it can definitely be one to set you up down the road. Because, look, Duke still got 5 games left. They're playing every week for the remainder of the season, and they've got some big ones in there. So they'll have a chance to try to bolster that resume, but I don't see there being much of any championship hopes for the Blue Devils or the Tigers. Darian Mensah, one of the better quarterbacks this year in the country, 17 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, over 2,200 yards. For Clemson, Cade Klubnik's been dealing with a leg injury. It looks like he will, I'd say he's questionable right now. The ACC injury reports will come out tomorrow. But I like Duke in this one. And the big thing, it's the difference in the run game. Nate Shepard is one of the best young running backs in the country. Adam Randall is one of the more young, talented running backs in the country. But he hasn't been able to put up the yards. On 15 less carries, has 60 less yards than Shepard. I mean, he's getting around 5 yards a carry, but not much more than that. Clemson's just been dealt a tough hand this season. They were preseason number 4, which I don't know why they were that high to begin with. It was the same team we saw last year that was very shaky, and they brought those guys back. That just means they're going to be shaky again, and this time they were got a little bit more than they are actually winning football games. But I like Duke in this one to get a big win on the road. I think Clemson, they're 1-3 at home this year. That's not the Death Valley that we were led to believe we were getting coming into the season. Their only win at home's against Troy. They've lost games to LSU, SMU, I believe Georgia Tech was on the road. What is Clemson's other home loss? Syracuse. Yeah, forgot about that one. The Steve Angeli game before he ended up getting hurt. But yeah, I like Duke in this one. I think that they're gonna be a tough team down the stretch, and you may see 4-3 right now. Because I know a team like Virginia gets them in a couple of weeks. That could be a 6-3 team when you meet them, and that's no joke. Number 10, Miami going on the road to Dallas to take on SMU. Canes 12.5 points in the given 12.5 in the spread, and over under at 50.5. It's only Miami's second road game of the year. Now they're 1-0 on the road, but they haven't traveled away from home very much this year, and good teams can do that. They don't have to play away from home very much. SMU, on the other hand, they're a tough team to predict, just for the simple fact that they've been an offensive team all year. Their defense has been subpar, and then they go put up 12 points against Wake. Kevin Jennings is having a interesting year because the stats look really good. It's just the team around him is not. The running game for SMU has been subpar at best. That's kind of one of the things that Miami has done really good. Mark Fletcher had a big game last weekend against Stanford. Carson Beck, stats don't look good, but I think it's inflated from that 4-interception game a couple Fridays ago. I like Miami in this one. I think that they're going to win. I think that they'll cover. I think it could be a pretty big win. It's just that SMU doesn't seem to have much momentum, especially following that loss last week that gashed any bit of playoff hopes that they had. And their first loss in an ACC jersey, and might make it two here real quick. Number 15, Virginia, is heading out to Berkeley to take on the 5-3 Cal Bears. This one at 2:45 on ESPN2. It's going to be a good one. Virginia 4.5-point favorites. Over under set at 53.5. You look, Virginia's 2-1 on the road this year. That lone loss coming at the hands of NC State, which, you could say looks like a bad loss for Virginia, but I think it more or less looks like a good win for the Wolfpack. But you look at Virginia, they've struggled a little bit this year. They've obviously they got the big win at Florida State. It doesn't look that great anymore, guys. An overtime win against Louisville, that looks really good. Washington State, North Carolina, they've kind of been, both of these teams, Virginia and Cal, have been struggling over the past couple of weeks. The offenses haven't been clicking, the defenses haven't been clicking. I mean, Cal's lost 3 in a row, or close to losing 3 in a row. They did get that win versus North Carolina, but they're that close to losing it. This is Cal's first game in 3 weeks that isn't on a Friday. They've been that ACC team that's stuck getting the Friday game for most of the season. They'll play on Saturday for the remainder of this regular season. I think they have an opportunity to make a statement here at home. I just feel like Virginia is too hard to get. They've been waiting on them to get got, but I don't think it's happening this week. I like Virginia to cover. I like Virginia to win outright. And I think the Cavaliers are going to make some noise in this one. I think that they can put up a good fight. I think that they can potentially beat Cal by 2 or 3 scores. Cal has really kind of soured on me this year, and they just haven't looked very good. And they could be looking for a new head coach in a couple of weeks, and you hate that for Justin Wilcox, such a great coach, but not the best team down there at Cal. The last game in the ACC at night, 6:30 on ESPN2. Number 8 Georgia Tech, a perfect 8-0 record, taking it on the road to face off with 4-4 NC State. Georgia Tech given 5.5 points, and over/under set at 58.5. Listen, Georgia Tech's perfect on the road. NC State's 3-1 at home. NC State has been really good at home this year. That has been the majority of their wins, and that's a tough place to play at night. We've seen teams like the Clemsons and the North Carolinas and the Dukes, when they've been good, go in there and struggle mightily. I don't know what it is. I mean, it's not a stadium that, Carter Finley Stadium isn't one that you put in the top 10 loudest in the country, but it's a tough place to play. On the other hand, Georgia Tech's lost 4 out of the last 5. They have not looked good in any of those games. I mean, Pitt lit them up last week. Notre Dame 2 weeks before that. Looked good versus Campbell, an FCS team, but gave Virginia Tech a win. Duke kind of handled them pretty well. I don't know what it is. These are 2 very good offenses. NC State's defense can't stop anybody. They're just not very good defensively. So Georgia Tech will be able to go up and down the field all night. I think we're going to see another big game from Haynes King as he tries to make a push for a Heisman candidacy. And listen, the passing yard stats might not be there, but what he's done with this Georgia Tech team, with him as quarterback, has been simply phenomenal. I'm going to stick with my original pick, though. I'm going NC State. You look at this NC State team. You got C.J. Bailey, who's over 2,000 yards rushing. You got Hollywood Smothers, who is top 5 in the country in rushing yards. He's averaging 7 yards a carry on 120 carries. They're feeding him because they know he is a beast. And NC State looking to get another ACC win. I think they get a big win in here. They've had some chances at home to get some big wins this year. I think they're going to do it in this one. So give me the Wolfpack in an upset. On to the Big 12. We got Arizona State 5-3 going on the road to take on Iowa State 5-3. Listen, this was a game early in the season that many people thought would be a preview of the Big 12 championship game, and instead it's the 12 o'clock game on TNT. Iowa State given 8.5 at home, an over-under set at 48.5, so not seeing a lot of points in this one. And look, Arizona State's 1-2 on the road. They have not looked good on the road this year. Their worst loss at Utah, again, a game that was on the road. Iowa State's looked great at home this year. 3-1 at home. That one loss coming last week to BYU. Listen, BYU is a whole lot better than Arizona State. You can ask Utah that. And, similarly to the Utah game, the reason I keep bringing it up, Sam Leavitt's out again. Jeff Sims will start. That offense looked awful with Sims under center. There was just no semblance of an offense. We'll look at some of Arizona State's stats from that game just to kind of get a feel for what we're looking at. Well, they lost 42-10 to a Utah team that ran up and down the field all night. I believe it was, they gave it 276 yards on the ground. That's 6.5 yards a carry. That's going to win you a lot of football games. Jeff Sims, though, 18 of 38, 124 yards. I get when you're down, you have to run the ball or have to throw the ball, but Jeff Sims isn't the guy you can throw it 38 times with. Raleek Brown had a decent game. Jeff Sims had to carry it 20 times. I get that Iowa State's banged up as well, but without your quarterback, this team has looked like a completely different team. They've had terrible injury problems. Jordan Tyson's still iffy on if he's going to go in this one. And listen, that's a team missing their two best players on the road, going up against a really good Iowa State team that has fared well at home. Giving the Cyclones to win this one and become bowl eligible, and then we're looking at a 5-4 Arizona State team coming into next week. That is just crazy. 7-1, number 13 Texas Tech going on the road to Manhattan, Kansas to take on the Kansas State Wildcats. This one 2:30 on Fox. Listen, Texas Tech's getting 7 points on the road, over under at 51.5. Texas Tech's 2-1 on the road this year. They've looked good. That one road loss to Arizona State. Kansas State's 3-2 at home, and they've struggled a bit this year, but they've gotten better as of late. We saw them absolutely dismantle Kansas last week. It's the best their offense has looked all season. I think that Avery Johnson's been a really quietly good quarterback this year if you look at what he's done for Kansas State this year. Now, obviously, I feel like you can also almost attribute some of the losses to him, but I think that not having Dylan Edwards this year was going to be very difficult. I mean, he was predicted to be your number one running back, and he's gotten 34 carries this year. Joe Jackson's had to pick up a ton of the slack, and it's been a little rough for him. But listen, Avery Johnson, 63% completion percentage, 1,800 yards, 15 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, only been sacked 6 times. He's been really good this year. Texas Tech quarterback play, on the other hand, Baron Morton is a bit banged up. It's not confirmed if he will be available for this game against against Kansas State. Let me see if I can pull up a quick update real quick. So right now Morton is listed as probable, so looks like you'll have him. You'll probably need him because your backup Will Hammond tore his ACL against Kansas a couple weeks ago, and he is done for the season. And at that point, you're at your third-string quarterback. If you can have Morton and he can play a good game, I like Texas Tech. No Dylan Edwards for Kansas State once again. With it being at Kansas State, I like them a little bit in this one. I think they can cover, but I like Texas Tech to win outright. Number 17, Cincinnati going on the road to number 24, Utah. This one at 9:15 on ESPN. Listen, you got a 7-1 team going up against a 6-2 team. This is almost, I look at this as a playoff elimination game. I don't think the winner of this one makes the playoff, but I know for a fact the loser's probably done. This one at, again, 9:15 on ESPN. Utah's given 10.5 points a favorite at home. I mean, I can see that, but I also think that it's a night game. That has a big impact, but this is a really good Cincinnati team. Cincinnati's 2-0 on the road. Utah's 3-1 at home. That one loss being who actually was that one loss? It must be it was not BYU, so it must have been, it was Texas Tech who came in there and ran them out of their own building. Might I add, that was a really good game for Baron Morton and Will Hammond. I think Cincinnati's got a guy that can do it. You're missing Evan Pryor, your leading rusher. But Devin Dampier missed last week, and he's questionable again this week. I don't know what percentage he is going to be. What availability, how much they'll want to utilize him on the ground, because he is a big piece of their rushing attack. I talked about him yesterday, Brendan Sorsby. I think he can be huge in this one. His legs are going to have to be. But Twee Walker is another great running back, and I think he can pick up a lot of the slack that Pryor gives. And maybe there's a young guy that can break out and have a big game on the road. In fact, in spite of all that, I like Utah at home. That's such a tough place to play, and this is such a good Utah team this year. They're a lot different than teams of past, namely that Cam Rising's not their quarterback. I feel like he was there for about 8 years. And this look that they have, the rushing attack with Dampier and having safeties and linebackers play on the offensive side, it's a fun brand of football, and it's worked to this point in the year. And listen, Utah could be right back into that playoff race with the win on Saturday. But they'll need some style points to go along with it, and possibly a Big 12 championship appearance, which they're going to need some help. They're going to need Texas Tech to lose again if they want that to happen. Hopping on over to the Big Ten, Penn State, Ohio State. This was going to be a big one. This was going to be a great weekend for college football, and some of these teams have just flat out stunk this year, and Penn State's one of them. Ohio State has not stunk. 7-0, they're perfect at home. Penn State's not won a game on the road. The spread's at 20.5. Look, I know Ohio State's good. I know Penn State's not that great this year. There's no way Ohio State wins this game by 3 touchdowns. I don't see it happening. Now, do I think Ohio State's going to lose this game? No chance. I think Ohio State's going to win. I think this is a 24-13 kind of game. And I just don't think that Ohio State can cover this spread. I think that there's another team in the Big Ten that's got a big spread that can maybe cover it, but this one is a bit brutal. Give me Ohio State. Illinois, big game at home. They host Rutgers, who is 4-4 on the year. Illinois 5-3. This one at 11 a.m. on NBC. Illinois 12.5-point favorite at home, and over/under set at 61.5. So they see some points coming in this one. And you got two quarterbacks that like to sling it around with Luke Altmaier and Ethan Kaliakamanis. Rutgers 1-2 on the road. They've struggled. Illinois 3-1 at home. That one loss coming to Ohio State. That was a good Ohio State team. Yeah, you've had big home wins like USC. I like Illinois at home. I like them to win big. I think we're going to see Altmaier start getting back on pace. And, man, if Illinois cannot find a rushing attack in this game, you can kiss most postseason hopes, most deep postseason hopes out the window, because you can't win if you can't run the ball. And Illinois has not been able to very, very well this year. They're going to need Khalil Valentine, Caden Fagan, these guys to step up. Number 2, Indiana, going on the road to face 4-3 Maryland. This your CBS game of the week at 2:30. Indiana 21.5-point favorites, and over/under set at 50.5. And I would have said, no way Indiana doesn't covers a 21-point spread on the road at Maryland. Well, I thought that they had a better chance of not covering the spread last week against UCLA. That one was 25.5, and they covered that almost double. I don't know if they'll double the spread here. It's a close cover. It probably wouldn't be one I put money on. But listen, Indiana's 2-0 on the road. Maryland's 3-2 at home. They got a young quarterback in Malik Washington that can make things happen. But you look at some of the losses Maryland has this year. You got the loss to Washington where you gave up 3 fourth-quarter touchdowns. You had that loss to Nebraska where you gave up 10 unanswered in the fourth quarter. You look at that loss to UCLA where you gave up 13 points in the fourth quarter. If they can get to the fourth, they're done. And that's the only thing about them. This team has zero clutch gene whatsoever. It's just non-existent. And you're going to need a big-time clutch gene if you want to beat Maryland. The one thing I will say is going towards the favor of the Terrapins is Malik Washington doesn't turn the ball over. 3 interceptions this year, only been sacked twice. Those are some good stats. You definitely want a guy that isn't throwing it to the other team and is staying on his feet. 1,700 passing yards, 60% completion. That's not the greatest, but it's a freshman. What do you expect? I like Indiana in this one, but I think there's a pretty good shot that the Terps cover this one. Our next game in the Big Ten, number 23 USC going on the road to face off 6-2 Nebraska. This your night game over there on NBC at 6:30. USC's favored by 6 points on the road, and the over/under set at 58.5. I make one pretty defiant statement every week about a game that I am really confident about, and most times this season, especially last week, I was dead wrong. USC is not very good on the road. They have not been all season. You look at their 2 losses, at Notre Dame, at Illinois. Those are also 2 colder places. I don't think it was cold for those games. I'll check real quick. I don't. The Indiana or the Illinois game was in the middle of the day. I don't imagine that one being too cold. Does it? Okay, does not have kickoff weather anymore. I guess ESPN only has that for the past games. But you had a night game at Notre Dame 2 weeks ago, and I imagine it was pretty cold up there. You didn't look good in that one. You didn't look good against Illinois. You were close in both of these games, but not exactly there. Status of Wayman Jordan is still kind of up in the air. You don't know if you're going to see him or not, and his rushing attack has been really good to counteract the passing attack that you have with Jaden Maiava. I mean, kid's got 2,200 passing yards, 15 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, only been sacked 5 times. He's good. Mekhi Lemon, really good. Jacoby Lane, really good. I mean, those 2 guys are probably going to be first-round picks. Maybe not Lane, but I would say Lemon has a very good chance of that. This USC offense has put up a lot of points this year. Their defense has struggled, though. And I think that leans towards Nebraska with Emmett Johnson. I think Emmett Johnson's been really good this year. And I think that he's kind of been the way that Nebraska goes. If Emmett Johnson has a good game, Nebraska has a good game. If Emmett Johnson does not have a good game, Dylan Raiola hasn't proved that he has enough to get this team where they need to be. Listen, he has 20 more passing attempts than Maiava, and he has almost 300 less passing yards. That kind of tells you what you're getting out of Maiava right there. But there's just something about Nebraska at home. Nebraska's 4-1 at home. That one loss coming to Michigan, who's been really good. And, this USC team beat Michigan, but you can't use the process of elimination. Listen, Nebraska's won 3 of the last 4. USC's lost 2 out of the last 3. I'm going to go with recency bias. Give me the Cornhuskers in this one. A big win at home. And listen, at 7-2, Nebraska could be making some noise in the Big Ten. I'd definitely keep my eye out on them. Now over to the SEC. Number 9 Vanderbilt, 7-1, going on the road to face off with the number 20 and 6-2 Texas Longhorns. This one at 11 a.m. on ABC. Texas 2.5-point favorite at home with an over/under set at 44.5. I don't know if that is giving the defenses here some love or the offenses some hate. Vanderbilt 2-1 on the road this year. That one loss coming at Alabama. Texas perfect at home. They're 2-2 elsewhere, but they're perfect at their own building. I don't know how I feel about this one because Texas just went on the road, and you can look at Texas last week in 2 ways. One, they went on the road and had a comeback win at Mississippi State. Great win. Arch looked good. You had some things look good for you. Or you can go, you had to have a 17-point fourth quarter comeback to beat Mississippi State on the road, who hasn't won an SEC game since, I believe, 2023. You can look at it one of 2 ways. I look at it, they came back and won. Because, listen, that Mississippi State team is scrappy. Listen, you can joke and say they're 0-4 in SEC play. They've lost at home to Tennessee by 7 in overtime. At number 6 Texas A&M by 22, a game that was really close in the first half. A game that was 7-3 Texas A&M at halftime. You lose on the road at Florida by 2 points, a game that you should have won. And then you lose at home to Texas by 7 in overtime. You're right there. You could be 3-1 in SEC play and a 7-1 football team, and you're probably number 5 or 6 in the country. Your lone loss being to Mississippi or being to Texas A&M. Mississippi State team is literally an offensive line away, because Blake Shapin's been sacked 27 times this season. You've played 8 games and you've been sacked 27 times. You're getting sacked 3 or 4 times a game. That's not good. So that ended up turning into a Mississippi State rant. This is a Texas rant. Longhorns defense has struggled as of late. That was kind of their big thing coming into the season, was how was the defense going to look. It's struggled a bit lately. You give up 38 to Mississippi State. You only give up 13 to Kentucky, but you gave up almost 400 total yards of offense to Kentucky. And I get Tennessee did the same thing a couple weeks ago, but it didn't look good. But then you go back and you remember the Oklahoma game where they completely shut down John Mateer in a game he should not have played in, but you forced him to throw 3 interceptions. You walk all over them. Didn't give up a point to Sam Houston. Didn't give up 10 points to UTEP, 7 to San Jose State, 14 to Ohio State. Their defense is good, but it's been struggling. I think they get back right at home. You look, they have not played a game in their own stadium since September 20th against Sam Houston. Now, if you remember that game, it was the best Arch looked this year. 309 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. It was the best that run game looked all year. It was also Sam Houston, who has not won a game yet. But look, I think getting in front of their home fans, it's an 11 a.m. local kick, but I think they're going to be amped up. I think that defense is going to be fired up. I like Texas because you look at Vanderbilt, who they've played on the road this year. Their 2 road wins are Virginia Tech and South Carolina. Not the greatest of competition right there. Number 5, Georgia at 6-1 on the year, going to Jacksonville for the world's largest outdoor cocktail party at 3-4. Florida, this one at 2:30 on ABC. Georgia favored by 7 and an over under 50.5. And I agree. Georgia has looked so much better this year than honestly than I would expect, just for the simple fact that I've watched some of their games. They didn't look great against Tennessee, did not look good against Alabama. Looked all right, I guess you could say, versus Auburn. I mean, they ended up winning the game, but it's Auburn. And then, you get the big comeback win against Ole Miss. So this Georgia team has proved that they've got that clutch genetic about them. And this Florida team is so tough to judge because you don't know what Florida is showing up. Are you getting the one that lost to South Florida at home? Are you getting the one that threw 5 picks to LSU? Are you getting the one that didn't look very good versus Miami? Are you getting the team that upset top 10 Texas? Are you getting the team that beat Mississippi State at home? Which Florida are you getting? I'm leaning towards the better Florida. I think rivalry games bring out the best in both teams, especially this one. I'm not gonna say a funny story, but an ironic story that this man has been brought up twice. Lawrence Stockton, Gunnar Stockton's grandfather. We brought him up earlier in the season when Auburn and Georgia were playing, because he stormed the field in 1986 when Georgia went on the road and beat Auburn and got water hosed off the field. Was one of the Georgia fans that stormed the field that day. Has another memory in a big Georgia rivalry in the Florida game in 2010. He had a heart attack and passed away outside the stadium following a Georgia loss, 34-31 in 2010 in overtime. The only game at that point, and I believe still the only one to go into overtime in that series. So every time Gunnar Stockton has been able to get on the field against Florida, he's wanted to just tear them apart. Now, I get Florida didn't kill his grandfather or anything, but it's kind of got that semblance to him. I'm looking for a big game from Gunnar Stockton, maybe 300, 350 yards. I think he's going to be slinging it all over the yard. Give me Georgia in this one big. Now, why would I be talking about a 4-4 Mississippi State and a 2-6 Arkansas? Because these two teams have been terrible this year, and one of them's got to win this game. Mississippi State at Arkansas, this one at 3 p.m. on the SEC Network. Arkansas, 2.5-point favorites at home. An over-under set at 68.5. My guess is both defenses will probably just stick this one out at the hotel. Watch it in the hot tub or whatever. Mississippi State's 1-2 on the road. Arkansas's 2-3 at home. Arkansas has not won a game since they have fired Sam Pittman. Now, would they have won any of those games if they had Sam Pittman? I bet they would have beat Auburn. I like Mississippi State in this one. I think their offense has been getting right. And the things that they have struggled with, one is their defense. Arkansas's got a really good offense. That's going to be tough. There's going to be points in this one. But I think they can match, if not exceed, Arkansas just on the simple fact that I don't think Arkansas is going to sack Blake Shapen 5 times, 6 times. I don't think they're going to force 2 interceptions. That has been where the problems have lied for this Mississippi State team. Fluff Bothwell, I think he is listed as probable for this game. Let me pop up to the SEC availability report for this week. I believe he's not listed as out. I do know that for a fact. So we are looking for Mississippi State and Arkansas. Yeah, Bothwell's probable, so you're probably going to have him back. I think that fares well for your offense. It gives Devon Booth a bit of a break, and he had a huge game last week. So, maybe feed the beast in that one. Anthony Hill, Brennan Thompson, you got speed on the outside. You got talent. If you can get a stop, which I don't know if likely. I mean, you let Texas score 45, so at that rate, Arkansas is probably going to score 70. This one will probably be in the 50s. I see a 56-54 written all over this one. But give me Mississippi State. I think they'll get that one stop or maybe have the ball last, whichever one it comes down to. South Carolina 3-5 going on the road at number 7 and 7-1 at Ole Miss. This one at 6 p.m. on ESPN. Why would I be talking about this game if South Carolina didn't do what they did last week to Alabama? Listen, that Alabama team had been through a lot. They had played a ton of ranked games in a row and then finally had to go on the road and face a pesky South Carolina team. Yeah, that can give you troubles. I don't think it gives Ole Miss troubles because this was the one game last year out of the 3 regular season games that South Carolina lost, which were to Ole Miss, Alabama, and I believe Missouri was that other loss. I could be forgetting it, but Ole Miss whooped them bad. Like, that was the one game that I think it was 38-3 or 38-10. Like, it was not a close game whatsoever. It was when Ole Miss was probably looking their best on the season. It was when South Carolina probably was at their worst. South Carolina has not won on the road, and Ole Miss has not lost at home. That gives you a pretty easy recipe. Give me the Rebs big in this one. And the night game on ABC, a game that I will be present at. Number 18, Oklahoma, 6-2, going on the road to Knoxville to take on number 14, Tennessee, who is also 6-2. Again, the 6:30 game on ABC. Tennessee, 3-point favorites at home. It's Neyland at night. It's dark mode. It's going to be a tough place to play. Over-under set at 56.5. Oklahoma, 2-1 on the road. Tennessee, 4-1 at home. You look at Oklahoma's loss on the road, it was technically not on the road. It was just away from their home. Texas. You look at Tennessee's one loss at home. Georgia. Those are good teams. So there's not really a common denominator here. Just looking at these two teams. John Mateer, this was projected to be the week or the second week that he would be back from his hand surgery. He hasn't missed a game other than Kent State, and he probably wouldn't have played much in that one to begin with. I think that them playing him week after week has slowed down his recovery. He's probably getting closer to 100%. But you look, Tennessee's defense, what have they been bad at this year? Well, everything. But other than that, it's getting beat on in the pass game. That's going to, and what has Oklahoma not been good at? Running the ball. Tennessee's defense has gotten better at stopping the run. I think this is a game where it forces Oklahoma to have to throw the ball 35 to 40 times. I don't think Mateer can do that. Also, Colton Hood not featured on the Tennessee injury report. Oklahoma has some offensive linemen on the injury report, which has been a concern for him because since Mateer's gotten back, he's been picking himself up off the ground a lot on that injured hand. Tennessee's got 2 really good edge rushers on both sides. With you go with Caleb Herring, you go Josh Josephs, you go the young guy Jordan Ross, Dominic Bailey. I mean, they have tons of guys they can bring at you. Tyree West, to name a few. I mean, this is probably my bias sticking in a little bit, but I like Tennessee at home in this one. I think their offense is going to be able to put up enough points that Oklahoma can't keep up with them. You look at last week's game for Ole Miss in Oklahoma, that 34-26 game. I think if Tennessee can put up 35, they'll win the game. Now, that's also going to have to feature a couple of Ole Miss turnovers, some interceptions, a fumble maybe in there, which I think is likely. Tennessee's defense, they like to get to the quarterback, which forces mistakes. They like to get in the backfield, which reduces big plays. It's that defensive pass game. Still no Jermon McCoy or Ricky Gibson, and I'm pretty sure it's done for the season, allegedly. So not looking too great there in the secondary. But look, this is another one of those games that is not winning you're in, but losing you're out, so to speak, when it comes to the college football playoff for these teams. I think that the loser of this game is done. The winner's not in, but the loser of this game is for sure done on the year because neither one of these teams have a great win, to be honest. I mean, maybe you could say Michigan for Oklahoma, but not really. I mean, Tennessee, maybe Mississippi State, maybe Arkansas. I mean, Arkansas is not good at all. So these teams are both looking for a marquee win, and it favors Tennessee being at home and at night. I'm going to go with the Vols in this one. In the group of five, we'll start with the American Conference. 6-1 Tulane going on the road to face off with UTSA. That game tonight at 6:30 on ESPN. Tulane's favored by 6 points. It's an over-under of 54.5. Listen, Tulane's been really good on the road this year, 2-1 on the road, and that one loss, I believe, let me make sure I'm right. I try to do my correct reporting as best I can. I believe that one loss was at Ole Miss. I don't believe Ole Miss came down to New Orleans for this one. That one game was at Ole Miss. So you look at their games they've played on the road. At South Alabama was a close one. At Ole Miss got destroyed. And then at Tulsa, they handled that one pretty easily. Haven't played on the road in the month of October, and so this will be their first opportunity. It's a UTSA team that has struggled this year. Jeff Traylor obviously trying to get things going. Owen McCown's had an all right year, son of Josh McCown. I'll tell you, Jake Retzlaff, though, has been really impressive at the quarterback position for Tulane. Remember, he was the freshman sensation at BYU last year. The whole BYU movement with Jake Retzlaff, that was very popular. And it's made its way to New Orleans with Tulane. 1,400 passing yards. Yeah, it's not great, but he's a running quarterback. 450 yards on the ground and 8 touchdowns. He's been really good, almost 2,000 total yards, 15 touchdowns. And this is the guy that joined the team in July, late July at that. So, he's kind of just coming in and as a sophomore, a true sophomore, and just, really, really, really been playing well. I think Jeff Traylor is too worried looking for another job. Now, you look at the past couple of games for UTSA, it's been a little inconsistent. They put up 61 on Rice, and then they give up 55 and lose 55-17 to North Texas. Tulane's been more of a slow-paced team this year, keeping it on the ground a lot. I think that's going to favor this one, them in this one. Give me Tulane on the road. Staying in the American on Saturday at 11 a.m. on ESPN2, one of the better games to watch in that morning slot. Undefeated Navy on the road at 7-1 North Texas. The Mean Green is favored by 6.5 and an over-under 65.5. Who would have thought that we have a playoff game, pretty much? We could say an impromptu play-in game for Navy and North Texas. A team, one team is a branch of the U.S. military, and the other one has their mascot named after their best player, because that's really all North Texas is known for is Mean Joe Green. It's entertaining. You got two really good coaches. You got two really interesting teams with their quarterbacks. Blake Horvath, obviously, run that triple option at Navy. It's kind of expanded a little bit more into more of a passing offense. In North Texas, Drew Messemaker's going to throw it 50 times for 600 yards every week if you'll let him. I'm going North Texas in this one. I think that this is their best shot to make the playoff if they win this game. Because they don't have a tough game really left on their schedule. So, and I think it's going to be too hard to leave an 11-1 or 10-1 team out of the top 25 in a couple of weeks. Navy, on the other hand, has a brutal stretch coming up to end their season. And, you're like, how is Navy not ranked? And you're like, oh, if they win this one, this will be their opportunity to be ranked, because following this, they got to go to Notre Dame, play South Florida, at Memphis, and then Army. And that Army game, just the way it lines up, will probably be the week before the first playoff games. So, you be throwing your conference championship game in there between Memphis and Army, and it's probably going to be Memphis or South Florida or North Texas, one of those top 2 or 3 teams in the conference. It's going to be tough. I just think the Navy's got too tough of a stretch looking ahead. If anybody's doing it, it would be Navy, but I'm going to go North Texas in this one. New Mexico 5-3 at UNLV 6-1. This one at 2 p.m. on the Mountain West Network. UNLV 3.5-point favorites. These are 2 head coaches that will be candidates for jobs coming up in December. You got Dan Mullen at UNLV. I think New Mexico's got a pretty interesting coach that nobody talks about. He definitely could be a name up there for some jobs opening up out west, because right now the only jobs that are open in that area are Stanford and UCLA. I think Cal has a pretty good chance of opening up. I think that there's probably going to be some movement around. I don't know exactly. Maybe Jed Fish making a move. That opens Washington up. These Mountain West coaches are looking for some bigger jobs, and I think that they're definitely going to have their fair share here in this coaching carousel in December. I'm going with UNLV on this one. Their offense has been so good this year, and New Mexico has really struggled on the road, 1-3. I get Allegiant Stadium's not going to be the greatest home field advantage, but it just seems like New Mexico hasn't really been able to get up and play in these games that aren't at home. Fresno State 5-3 going on the road to face off with Boise State 6-2. This one at 2:30 on FS1. Boise State 17.5-point favorites, and over/under set at 50.5. Fresno has not looked good this year. They're 5-3, but I really struggle to define them. You know, they weren't great with E.J. Warner. He gets hurt. Their backup comes in. He's not much better. They have a huge turnover problem, and Boise State's perfect at home. It's tough to play on that blue field. Give me Boise State in this one. I really like Maddox Madsen this year. He has really stepped up in the absence of Ashton Genty from that team last year, because he wasn't known as a great passer or anything, but this year at a 60% clip, just shy of 2,000 yards, 2 yards shy of 2,000, 15 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and then 3 more rushing touchdowns with 75 rushing yards. I mean, he's giving you over 2,000 yards and 18 touchdowns this year. I mean, Boise's probably not going to make the playoff with 2 losses already on the season, but that gives you something to look forward to in the future, because you probably have Madsen for 1 more year. If you can bring in some talented running backs behind him, Boise State could be looking at 2 playoff appearances in 3 years. Wyoming at 4-4 going on the road to face off 6-1 San Diego State. This one at 6 p.m. on CBS Sports Network. San Diego State's getting 10.5 points at home and an over-under of 42.5. This is going to be a slow, sluggish game, but talking about how New Mexico was a different team on the road than they are at home, San Diego State perfect at home. And Wyoming has struggled a bit on the road. They can make things interesting because Wyoming has some interesting wins, but they also have some questionable losses. I'm going to go San Diego State in this one. So real quick, we'll recap all of my picks. I have Duke over Clemson on the road. I have Miami getting a win on the road against SMU. I got Virginia winning on the road at Cal, and I got NC State winning at home in the ACC. Man, they got some tough road games this week in the ACC. Three of those 4 teams ranked on the road. I got Iowa State winning at home against Arizona State, Texas Tech on the road at Kansas State, and I have Utah winning at home against Cincinnati. Going to the Big Ten, Ohio State at home over Penn State, Illinois at home over Rutgers, Indiana winning on the road at Maryland, and Nebraska winning at home against USC. In the SEC, I have Texas over Vanderbilt at home. I have Georgia getting a win over Florida. I have Mississippi State going on the road and beating Arkansas. Ole Miss getting a big win at home against South Carolina, and then Tennessee doing the same against Oklahoma. In the group of 5, I have Tulane winning on the road at UTSA tonight. I have North Texas a big win at home on Saturday over Navy. UNLV getting a big win over New Mexico on Saturday. Boise getting to 7 wins over Fresno State on at 2:30 on Saturday, and then San Diego State over Wyoming. Best of games to watch in each time slot. And that 11 to 12 o'clock one. My eyes are going to be on Vandy, Texas, but I think Navy, North Texas is the great one. And then Miami at SMU. SMU is still a very talented team and could trip up a Miami team. And a Miami team with 2 losses probably won't make the playoff. So that makes the ACC that much more interesting. Afternoon slot, I think Virginia and Cal has a chance to be an interesting game. Or Texas Tech at Kansas State. I think that one is going to be a good one. I think that one's going to be one that goes down to the wire, in spite of some of the injury luck with those 2 teams. Night game, obviously, I'm going to be at Oklahoma, Tennessee. I'm going to keep my eye on Georgia Tech, NC State, and USC at Nebraska. I think those are going to be 2 great games. And then hopefully I can make it back home in time to watch a little bit of Cincinnati and Utah on Saturday night. So that will do it for this Thursday edition of the Mark My Words College Sports Show here on the X Sports Network. I hope everybody has a happy Halloween tomorrow, watches a ton of great football on Saturday, and we'll be back on Monday to break down some of these big games. So for Michael Marks, this has been the Mark My Words College Sports Show. Have a good weekend, everybody.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.